So our movie starts out with this girl running outside her house looking real stressed. We hear her father call out to her, but she says she's okay. She then runs back inside the house to get her car keys. She takes the whip and drives off. She drives to a beach and calls her dad and says she loves them and apologizes for being a bad daughter. The next morning, the girl is found brutally murdered, and oh dang, she is jacked up. Okay, so then we cut to Jay, who's vibing in her pool. She gets out, dries off, and heads over to meet the gang. We got her sister Kelly on the left, Paul in the middle, and Yara on the far right. Paul clearly has the biggest crush on Jay, but it seems my man is friend-zoned. And it wouldn't matter because Jay has a boyfriend anyway. She's actually getting ready to go see him now. Jay and Hugh are waiting in line to see a movie. Jay asks Hugh if he could trade lives with anyone in line, who would it be? He chooses a young child because the kid probably has no worries or stresses. While inside the theater, Hugh points out a young woman standing at the entrance. But Hugh must be absolutely bugging because Jay, or myself for that matter, does not see the young woman. He gets a little nervous and leaves the theater with Jay. On another date, the two are vibing in the woods. Hugh suggests they head back to the car where they mate. After mating, Hugh knocks Jay out with some chloroform. She wakes up tied to a wheelchair under a bridge. Hugh apologizes for tying her up and tells her because they mated, he passed a curse onto her. And due to said curse, a creature is going to follow her everywhere she goes. It takes the form of anyone and will follow her at a walking pace. He also tells her that it's in both of their best interests for her to mate with someone else soon, because if she does, the creature will follow that person. But if the creature kills her, it will then be transferred back to him. So don't die. In the midst of explaining, Hugh spots a naked woman walking towards them. And uh-oh, Jay can see her this time. Hugh takes Jay, drops her off at her house, and drives off. Her family runs over to help her out. The police arrive and Jay tells them about Hugh and the naked woman. The police search for Hugh but can't find him anywhere. The next day, Jay seemingly recovered from the incident. She goes to the bathroom and checks on her mating machine, and all seems to be in order. She's at school learning and stuff when oops, she spots a woman in a hospital gown walking towards her. Jay's a bit creeped out, so she grabs her stuff and leaves. She's walking down the hallway and the woman is still following her. Jay seems to be the only person that can see the woman. She dips and drives over to Paul and Kelly's workplace. She tells the two everything. Paul says he'll stay the night with them, to protect her. That night, the sisters, Yara and Paul, spend the night together. It's late and Jay can't sleep. She sits on the couch with Paul and they watch TV. While they're talking, they hear the kitchen window break. Paul goes to investigate on his Scooby-Doo ting but sees nothing. Jay goes to check herself and sees a urinating, half-naked woman walking towards her. She spazzes out, screams, and runs upstairs, closing the door. Her crew is super confused and Paul thinks Jay may be hallucinating. Yara knocks the door and says, "What's the dealio?" Paul gets ready for war with a broom and Kelly opens up. All seems good. Just kidding, a tall man with dark eyes quickly walks towards them. Jay pieces out of there and takes off. She rides a bike to a playground and sits on a swing, seemingly traumatized from the incident. The crew catch up to her and console her. A neighbor named Greg comes over and offers to give them a ride. Jay wants to ask Hugh some more questions, so she heads over to his house, or what she thought was his house. It seems that this is an abandoned house he was temporarily using so he can pass the curse on to someone and dip. Paul is checking out a booklet and finds a photo of Hugh and that girl who died in the first scene of the movie. Jay recognizes the jacket from a nearby high school and heads over there with Greg. They find Hugh's real address, which seems a little illegal, but it's all good. They find out that Hugh's real name is Jeff and drive to his crib. Jeff's mom answers the door and Jay realizes one of the people chasing her earlier was in the form of Jeff's mom. The crew is talking to Jeff outside and he tells her he got the curse from a one-night stand and all he knows is that he needs to sleep with other people to pass on the curse. Greg drives the crew to the lake house so they can figure out their next moves. He then teaches Jay how to shoot a glizzy. The crew is hanging out by a lake and vibing when Yara starts walking towards them emotionless. It turns out that this isn't Yara, but the entity in the form of Yara. The creature grabs Jay's hair and pulls it. We get a glimpse of what her friends see before the entity starts jacking Jay up. Paul tries to help but gets absolutely yeeted. The crew takes off back to the house. Jay grabs the pocket rocket and starts letting that thing fly. Feh. She finally hits a shot but the attack has no effect. The entity gets right back up and chases the crew. The crew hides and the entity, who's taken the form of a tall man, kicks the hole in the door. It then takes the form of a boy who lives in Jay's neighborhood and screams a bit. Jay does the race and heads towards the car. She ditches the crew and drives off. She then immediately crashes into a cornfield. Unlucky. She wakes up in the hospital with a boo-boo. Oh, and a broken arm. Jay's freaking out and decides there's only one option. Yup sir, pass the curse on. Even after everything they've seen, Greg still doesn't believe in the curse and Jay says bet. The two are alone and begin to get it on. They made it up and Jay hopes the curse is gone. Paul watches Greg and Jay flirt and figures they slept together. Unlucky. Poor guy is quite heartbroken. A few days later, Jay is chilling in her pool and hasn't been followed by anything for days. That night, she sees Greg walking towards his house. He breaks his own window and hops in his crib. Jay realizes that this isn't Greg at all, but the entity in Greg's form. She runs over to Greg's house to warn him. She finds the entity in the form of Greg's mother knocking on his door. Greg opens up and boom, gets attacked. Jay goes over to help, but it's too late. The entity is mating with the dead Greg in the form of his mother. It seems Greg made some poor life choices. Jay drives off into a forest, realizing the curse has reverted back to her and sleeps on the hood of her car. She wakes up and finds herself on a beach. She sees 3 men on a boat and begins taking off her clothes, hoping to pass the curse on. She heads home and tries to get some sleep. Paul says he would like to sleep with Jay to save her and tries to kiss her. He gets rejected. Damn, that friend zone hits hard. Paul says he has a plan to get rid of the entity. The gang is leaving and Jay sees the entity in the form of a naked man staring at her from her roof. Dang, guess those boat guys got RIP'd. The crew is at an abandoned pool where they plan to lure the entity inside to electrocute it, which to me is a strange plan because it survived a gunshot to the head, but sure. Jay hops in the pool as bait. The entity comes in the form of her deceased father. Instead of entering the pool, the entity does something quite interesting. It starts throwing electrical equipment inside the pool to electrocute her. Outplayed. Paul starts shooting at the invisible entity and accidentally hits Yara. He fires again and hits the entity. Kelly cleverly covers up the entity and Paul shoots it in the head, causing it to fall in the pool. Jay tries to swim away, but the entity grabs her. Paul and his sniper team, boom, hits the creature in the head. Jay escapes and Kelly consoles her. Jay peeks inside the pool, which is filling with blood. As Paul's reward, Jay sleeps with him. See, it pays to be in the friend zone sometimes. Well, maybe it doesn't in this case. Paul's driving around searching for a prostitute. In the last scene, Paul and Jay are seen walking down the street, hand in hand, while the entity slowly walks behind them. And that's the end of our show, folks. I hope you all enjoyed the movie, and if you made it this far, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It's a huge help. Take care.